Fly belly up.
This is the game. It's cat and mouse.
Smoked a turkey.
He is down. He is freaking down. Said he shot an absolute giant.
Fall Obsession, baby.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I'm Sam Thrash with Fall Obsession. I'll be your host for this week's podcast episode. And join me on the line is a first-timer to our Fall Obsession podcast and a big content contributor to our organization. He is a pro staffer with us, and he was also named this year's Staffer of the Year, and that is our own Pro Staffer Kurt Echelberry. Kurt, welcome to Fall Obsession podcast, man.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Glad we could finally get this done.
Yeah, happy to have you on, man. Been looking forward to getting an opportunity to talk to you for a little bit.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity.
So guys, before we get into our discussion today, as always, you guys know the drill. This podcast is brought to you guys by our friends over at Elite Archery. We're very grateful to our partnership with them over there. They've helped us out a lot in the last year and putting quality products in our hands. I'm running the Cure this year. It's a awesome bow, and if you guys haven't shot it yet, I encourage you to go to your local dealer, pick one up, take the Elite Shootability Challenge, and see if it's right for you. Put some arrows down range, put it up against any other bow out there. Like I always say, the biggest mistake you can make is buying a different brand of bow before you try an Elite. So check them out at elitearchery.com and go to your local dealer and shoot one and see what you think. So, and Kurt, I think you've been running an older model Elite recently, haven't you?
Yes, that's correct. I bought it's the Elite Impulse 34. I believe it's the 2017 model.
Yeah.
It's been a sweet bow for me. The draw cycle on it's like nothing else I've ever pulled before. I was a previous Matthews guy, but I'm glad I made the switch. It's night and day difference with this bow.
Man, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's back when I worked at a bow shop, it was the Energy series, and then the Impulse, and all those bows were rolling out, and Elite was just starting to gain some traction and kind of make a name for themselves. And I remember shooting those bows, man, and like you said, the draw cycle and everything on them was just absolute awesomeness, in my opinion. It was just butter. I wouldn't shoot an Elite at the time, but I'm glad I am now, because I feel like they just continue to improve upon their products, and those older products like that Impulse and stuff like that are still ready to rock and roll. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's been a great bow. I've had it for I think I'm going on my second season with it. And my rule's always been, don't upgrade until you at least kill something with it. And I passed a few too many last year, did not harvest with 34, so I'm stuck with it again this year. But I'm dying. I'm dying to try the new Cure. So hopefully maybe this next year we'll be ordering one of those.
Yeah, I gotta knock something down this year so you can move on.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, man, just to kind of get us started and get us into our conversation, obviously if folks follow Fall Obsession or have for even just a little bit of amount of time recently, they no doubt have seen some of your content. But just to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about yourself and kind of your experience as a hunter and where you find yourself hunting typically.
Okay, yep. My name's Kurt Echelberry. I started out as a field staffer for Fall Obsession, and kind of background for me is I grew up in north central Ohio. Started out hunting very, very young with my grandpa. He owned out like a hunting store / Red Wing Carhartt type of deal, and met a lot of good people through there. And I think that's a lot of the properties we used to hunt came from that, just meeting people through the store. And my dad started me out in the big game part of it, I guess. So whitetail hunting with him, killed my first deer with him, and then did all the small game stuff, raccoon and squirrel and the rabbit stuff like that with grandpa. And then, 2000, so that was probably till about the age of 14, I hunted Ohio, killed my first archery buck at 11 years old. So my first gun deer would have been at 10. And killed some other smaller bucks in between here, like from the ages of, 9 to about 14. And then we moved out west to Colorado. That was an experience I could never take back. It was 13. Yeah, I think it was 2003 to about 2016 is when I finally moved back here. But and, on that time, I met a lot of great people and got the chance to work for a guy when I was in high school up to I was probably like just a little over 18, and he was a huge outdoorsman. Introduced me to tons of people. Got to meet a lot of different people on jobs that were outdoorsmen, and learned a lot of great spots in Colorado. If anybody's familiar with Colorado, it's pretty much Unit 53 and 63 is where I spent a lot of my time. It's the western slope of Colorado. Hunted a lot of Gunnison National Forest. Tried to draw a lot, every tag I could get my hands on. If nobody's ever done that, it's a process coming from an eastern state where you can get everything over the counter. You just walk in your local store and, I need a deer tag, hunting license. And, when you start out west, and what you guys probably go through this, traveling around your Montana tags and stuff like that, is the draw process. And it's not just handed to you over the counter. Yeah. There's a lot of rules and regulations to keep up on out west. So back to the hunting part. I mean, I've tried to kill about every type of species I could in Colorado. I was lucky enough to kill some decent bear, got my hands on some pretty good bulls, a lot of cow elk, and a few muleys, not as much as I would like. Surprisingly, they don't hand tags out for muleys very easy out west. So then 2016 came back to Ohio and been here since, and getting back in the whitetail swing of things. It's a pretty big transition from out west to coming back east. So
yeah, I imagine so. Used to all that big game, and now you got just little whitetails wandering around.
Yeah, that's right. It's they are a challenge here, though. I mean, it's I can never trade in my time for Colorado, though, like I said. But I mean, a whitetail is my bread and butter. It's what I love to do. It's definitely a challenge.
Absolutely. So, how long have you been a bow hunter?
Let's see. 2000. I'd say 2001 is when I probably had my first whitetail kill. But I messed around with bows before then. I think probably when I was 11, I would say, was when I was probably strong enough to shoot an actual legal. I think 40 pounds was probably the limit back then.
Yeah.
So.
And you've shot trad before as well, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So I guess I've been archery hunter for 20 years, and I would say probably 5 of those years in between then I shot a Black Widow traditional. 63-pound recurve, and
awesome.
Managed to kill a few animals with it. That was it's one of those things with the traditional side of it. You better have a lot of time to practice, and everybody gets busy with their work life, and I didn't feel ethical with it anymore. You know what I mean? After starting to work a lot, and so I went back to compound there.
Yeah, traditional is always something that's kind of sparked my interest a little bit. I've never bought one. I've never gone full blown into it or anything. When I worked at the bow shop, we'd mess around with them sometimes and fling some arrows downrange. But always been interested. But I've always been a compound guy. I've never actually made the commitment, like you're saying, with time and everything else to go full blown into it. But something that I'd like to do at some point in my life for sure. Looks fun.
Yeah. For sure, yeah, it's a whole nother level going to that. It's you're shooting heavy and slow, and seems like the heaviness of the arrow with the recurve, is starting to make its way back through the compound part of it. People are starting to realize that the heavy arrow is definitely very lethal. It's not all about speed anymore.
So you're running that impulse this year. What's the rest of your setup look like? You kind of just mentioned arrows, so I was a little curious about what your arrow build is and everything this year.
Yeah, so I've shot a 340 spine with my older bows, and I tried to roll them 340s into shooting this impulse, and I think it's so much newer and better. It was giving me a lot of tail whip and just problems with the 340 spines. They were obviously too weak, so I had to step up to a 300 spine. Shooting the gold tip XT 100 XTs, and then I got 100 grain brass inserts up front, plus a 125 tip up front, and then I fletched feathers on mine this year. That's new for me. I shot feathers when I did traditional, and then vanes when I went back to the compound, and now I'm back to feathers again. Just kind of a different look, and kind of actually bringing that traditional look in. I've been doing some wraps in the feathers are barred, so
Yeah.
they're shooting really good.
Very cool. What's your total arrow weight? Do you know?
I want to say I'm around like 495. Don't quote me on that. I need to actually weigh them this year, but I think that's the magic number I was trying to find, about 495.
That's awesome. That'll pack a punch right there.
Yeah, and I know there's some guys shooting heavier stuff. Some of our staffers are pretty heavy, and I can't wait to see the pictures of, what they do. I love seeing the pass-through shots, especially if somebody hits bone. It's pretty impressive to watch an arrow that heavy just blast through it, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, talking about our staffers and everything, we'll kind of change gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you about our Fall Obsession staffer programs, because you've been involved for over a year now, and recently made that transition from field to pro staff, and also congratulations for your Staffer of the Year title that you now have as well. That's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a good year. Did not expect any, to go the way it did. It was far beyond what I expected as a staffer program. There's a lot of different programs out there that, you could try to get with, and I just lucky I paired up with Fall Obsession. It pretty much checked all my boxes of what I was looking for. We don't centralize our content just around our staffers. I mean, we like to, but we also get to go outside and do family members and friends and, show that content. So that's pretty cool. It's a great program. And I think on one of our podcasts earlier, you talked about the brotherhood, of like how tight we all are together. That's really true. You staying in contact with all these staffers, and we're all discussing hunting and arrow setups and just, who's hunting this, and we're helping each other out, like Kevin Johansson, when he went out west, I tried to give him every tip I could about Colorado, and, we just talk back and forth about whitetails or whatever it may be. And I think, everybody as a staffer is, absolutely thrilled with the program and how it's going and how it's, professionally ran. It's been a great year, and looking forward to see what we can do this year.
Yeah, I am too, man. I've enjoyed over the years seeing the contributions and everything that the guys have brought to the table, and how the, not to knock on our earlier stuff, but even just over the years, how the quality of content has evolved, and to see guys' passion, especially the guys who have been staffers for us for longer amounts of time, how they've kind of grown in developing their own content as well. And it's been really cool, and I can't say enough about the brotherhood like you were talking about either. That's something that you guys have done at y'all's level. We can, from an administrative side, we can give you guys the tools and the opportunity, basically the ability to talk to each other, but then you guys are the ones that actually build and nurture those relationships. And it's been really cool to see that family develop, if you will, because I feel like there's so many, especially for, and not to talk bad about other staffer programs. That's not my intention. I think there are great staff programs out there, but it seems like with bigger companies, you get more people involved, and it's just it's a name and a number and a system, basically. And that's not what I want to. That's not what I want to see. That's not what we want our family, if you will, to be. We want that brotherhood aspect of it for sure, and it's been really cool to watch that develop and come to fruition, because it's awesome. It's a hunting camp. It's an online hunting camp, is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, for sure. It's been a good year. That's all I can say. I'm stoked for this year. It's gonna be great.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you bring, man. Again, congrats on that title, and we appreciate your content that you brought in so far, and looking forward to everything that's going to come, like you said, this upcoming fall.
Yep, I plan on keeping it rolling. Hopefully, there's some. I know some of our other staffers are getting ready to turn it up and turn in some good content here. I'm sure where there's a lot of guys holding some good tags and got some big things happening this year. So hopefully they can get it documented, and share it with everybody. That's what it's about.
Yeah, man, we're right there. We are days and weeks and hours away from season starting, if they haven't already, and I couldn't be more pumped.
Yep, I hear you on that one.
So what do you have what do you have for this year? What's on the agenda?
So we'll start off. There'll probably be some new faces in my content this year. You remember the youth turkey hunt that I did?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so JT, he'd been 9 years old at the time. He's got a friend that's 12, and he is itching to fill the freezer. So we're going to kick off with probably a Ohio doe tag, or they're called a special permit now, I guess. So they've lowered the price of doe tags in Ohio to $15. I think they pretty much cut them in half. I think they were around 30. So early season, I don't get too crazy with the whole hunting the big boys type stuff yet. So, and it's usually pretty hot, and it's easy to get a doe, hopefully. So we'll get the doe tag taken care of, and then I have my either sex tag, I guess, if you want to call it that, for Ohio. So I got a new lease here. I think you guys saw the shooter on there that I sent in. He's an absolute stud.
Yeah, man. I saw that picture come through, and I don't remember who I was sitting next to when that email came in, but I showed it to somebody, and it blew me away. That deer is a monster.
That's what you want to see. It's just a little 12-acre parcel I picked up late last winter, I guess. I hunted it just a few times, and I have a buddy that hunts over that way, and kind of led me into a tip saying there was a big boy running that area. And we put some cameras up, had some camera failures, which was right in prime time of documenting what's going on out there. So I had to put a new camera up, and we went in and pulled that card probably 3 weeks ago. And I took my buddy and his son and then my youth hunter, and we set a tree stand before we pulled the card. If I would have known what was going on before, I would not have took everybody in there.
Yeah.
It definitely messed things up for a little bit. It looked like he vanished for a couple of weeks, but he's back. I got some good pictures of him, so he'll be my number one target buck for this year. I got a couple other farms with some other bigger deer on it. It's a little bit better late season, so I guess I'd say I'm not going to get hot and heavy with the hunting the big boy probably till usually October 20th, and then on is when things get real good here. We come in September 26th is our start date for archery here. Runs till February 2nd, I think. So we got time. And then in the mix there will be my regular West Virginia rifle season. I usually go down Thanksgiving night. That's what happened last year, and I harvested the next day. So hopefully I can do that again. Gonna take a couple more people with me this year. Fill the freezer, I guess.
Yeah. That hunt that you sent in for that West Virginia trip last year was a really cool video, and I'll kind of real quick direct our followers and our listeners to our website and our YouTube pages, because you mentioned that hunt. That hunt's documented on video. You killed a really nice buck. Did a good job self-filming on that one. That one's on our pages, and then also you mentioned earlier the youth hunt with JT, and that hunt is also on camera. So if you guys are wanting to see some of Kurt's videos and stuff like that, go to our website and our YouTube page and check those out. So
yeah, so with the West Virginia, the camera guy that usually rolls with me, he had to go back to work or something like that, so I ended up documenting that hunt with a GoPro. But I'm pretty excited this year. It sounds like everybody's going down with me, and we'll be running the big Sony camera, so it'll be nice and clear and good footage like the turkey hunt was. So
awesome.
Hopefully we can kill another big boy like we did last year. That was very unexpected. I just was going down to kill, whatever, just something with horns, and that's the way it's always been in West Virginia. Guys just go down to get the meat, and it's not a state to brag about horn size, but it's kind of turning that way now. There's getting to be a lot of big deer on the Ohio-West Virginia border for sure, right across the Ohio River. I mean, guys are, and then there's some spots in southern West Virginia. I guess guys are killing some monsters, but we didn't run any trail cameras on that property down there. When I took layoff from the railroad, we built the cabin, and we worked our butts off on it, getting it built. And the hunt was a little bit different for me. I've always been the guy that's the first, an hour and a half in the stand in dark, watching the woods wake up. And I woke up that morning with, no intel on any of the deer size there, anything that was running the property. And I kind of told myself, you bust your butt building this thing. It's your kind of mini vacation. I think I was off 4 or 5 days, and I just kind of kicked it. Waited later. I remember sitting there drinking coffee, and my brain's telling me, you need to go. It's getting daylight. And at the same time, I'm like, no, you need to enjoy it. Just sit here. And I watched it get light. And I knew, with the cabin placed in a pretty good spot, you could honestly probably shoot one from the cabin, from just outside. So I remember walking up the hill there, pretty daylight at that time. It was definitely shooting light, quite a bit past actually. And, I was just like, I'm just going to take it easy. If I fall asleep, whatever, take a nap, I don't care. And it wasn't like an hour later, I think like 7 or 8 deer come funneling off the hillside. A neighbor shot, and there was a couple bucks running in that group. And, luckily that big guy, I had no idea he was that big until I got up to him. It was a pretty good moment walking up on a deer that caliber, especially for West Virginia, and not plan on coming home with something that big. So
yeah,
it's a really good hunt. One I will never forget.
We definitely enjoyed watching that and experiencing that with you through the video. That was awesome.
Yeah, hopefully we can get another good video this year.
Absolutely. So backing up just a little bit on that big boy that you got on camera, do you have any competing hunters in neighboring properties that you're worried about with him, or you think that it's going to be mostly you for at least the first part of the season?
Yeah, that's the risk we always run into. With it being a newer property, I'm not really familiar with the neighbors. I've only just kind of, from what the landowner has told me about, like, who's hunting here or over there. What, like, I just found out that the property to the east, the guy told me, he's like, if it crosses their fence line, you will not be able to recover that deer. So whoever was hunting this lease before I was, I guess they've had some issues where a deer ran onto the neighbors. They would not let him recover it, and I think Ohio law is, even with a game warden, you cannot go in and get it. So that's kind of sketchy. I know there's some hunters around, hopefully that buck obviously is comfortable being on this lease and not maybe make an appearance on their side where they're going to know about it, which I'm sure eventually he's going to travel and get on somebody else's camera. But, that's why I love staying out of these pieces like this, because this buck was he's getting up like 3 or 4 times a day to come hit the minerals. And a big boy like that, like, he has to be super comfortable, be giving me all daylight photos, coming in like 3 or 4 times a day. I probably got 200 pictures of this buck.
Oh,
like,
really?
I've had bigger deer on camera, and they're not as consistent as this guy. So it's different. This property's a big bedding area. It's pretty much a sanctuary, and I want to keep it that way. Everybody's goal, I think, is try to keep them off the neighbors. So, I'd love to have a fair shot at him. I think I will. I'm not even going to go in there till the weather's right. Obviously it's going to be a good time to get in there. I'm not going to try to go in there early season and screw it up. So probably won't even shoot any does off that property. But yeah, I don't know. A neighbor could get a crack at it. I hope to God that this buck stays on our piece. I'd love to take him for sure. He's got a lot of character. And I've never seen bases on a deer like this. Like, you guys can't really see it in the picture that I sent, but I scrolled through some photos the other day, and he's got absolute tree trunks of bases. I probably almost the same size as some of the elk I've killed. So.
Oh wow, that's crazy. And yeah, those small properties, like you said, it can be hard sometimes with deer traveling and the neighbors and that kind of stuff. I remember a few years back we hunted it was only for 1 year, but we had just this little 30-acre piece, and only probably half of it was really huntable, if you will. Didn't know the neighbors, didn't know if they hunt or not. It was kind of tucked back in just a really weird location in the first place, but started running cameras, and we had 2 really good bucks in the area. One of them had no mass, but he was really wide and just a lot of character, and the other one he was a non-typical. He had, 3 or 4 splits going off of his G2s and G3s, tight rack, not wide at all, but just mass and points everywhere. Lots of pictures, some daylight photos of these deer, and come 2 weeks into the season, they were gone and never came back. Like it was just, it was one of those deals where you knew that they traveled and somebody else got them somewhere else, and that was that. So
Yeah, you always hope, the neighboring properties aren't getting photos of these, those bigger bucks. And we're in the part of the year where the velvet's getting ready to come off, and you hear the guys say, well, they completely left the farm, and sometimes that's not the case. It took me a few years to figure that out. Sometimes just their travel pattern changes, maybe 80 to 100 yards away. I've had 2 monster bucks consistently last year coming in to hit our minerals, and all of a sudden it just vanished, and I moved the trail camera maybe 80 yards to a field edge on a scrape, and there they were. I picked them back up like almost every night again. They did not, and I had both cameras. I had one over minerals and one on the field edge, and the mineral site never got a picture of them again as soon as the velvet was off. And then 80 yards away, they're raking these scrapes and hitting the licking branches consistently, so that's a new thing I found. If your mineral sites go dead or your baiting sites go dead, just move your camera to a social point. Every deer is going to use that scrape, and they want to rub all their scent on the licking branches and stuff like that. So if this big guy, he quits coming to the minerals, I'll just move the camera over to the scrape.
yeah, that's good advice right there.
Yeah.
Some stuff that some guys might not think about at times. You get a buck that just disappears, or just stop seeing deer. You don't always think about moving your camera, especially depending on how far into the year you are. But
Yeah, and I believe their priorities change. They're not wanting the nutrition part of it, I don't think, anymore. That's the whole thing of minerals is, I think their body's calling for it, obviously, when they're growing their horns. And then once the velvet's off, things change. I think they're out doing inventory pretty much on what deer are in the area, and maybe their body isn't calling for the nutrition part of it like that, so the scrapes and licking branches, they're the place to be with the cameras for sure. I get a lot of great pictures and video. It's actually really fun putting these cameras on video and watching these deer. I mean, they up on 2 legs, and it's pretty wild watching them, how aggressive they are working these scrapes. Or even early season, a lot of guys think they aren't doing this until, late October here when the weather's cold. But like, I'm getting these like pretty much as soon as the velvet's off, these guys are hitting these scrapes. So
yeah, for sure, man. So what kind of, is there, you talk about running minerals and stuff like that, or is there any particular products or stuff that guys should be looking out for that's been working for you pretty good?
Yeah, we threw everything at them this year. I was just trying to mix things up a little bit. We ran Vapple on one farm the whole summer. Got a ton of pictures off of it. Like every card pull was, I probably pull my card every maybe 3 weeks, something like that, and like a couple of times the thing was maxed out. Like I'm talking 2,300 to 2,800 photos. Wow. So yeah, and I don't know what gig card that would be, like 10 or a 12, but my 16s, they usually never get full. I still get close to 2,000 pictures. JT's dad, the kid from the youth hunt, made his own kind of custom blend mineral, so we played with that this summer. It was pretty fun to watch all the deer come to a homemade blend. There's that Vapple, and then actually I didn't tell you this, we planted a Vapple white Dutch clover plot. Awesome. I need to do a video on that. I can't really take credit for doing any of the manual labor part of it, but I did purchase the seed. So it's on my stepdad's lease. It sounds like it's like 1.5 acres. We planted it before some rain. We had a really, really dry summer here in Ohio, and I think that was the case in the Midwest. I've seen a lot of stuff online where guys were waiting out. There was supposed to be a lot of rain coming, and everybody planted their food plots. Well, the rain kind of broke up, and it was really hit and miss. So this thing sat for like 2.5 weeks with 0 rain, absolutely nothing. And I thought it was going to be done. I think he said it got like 1/4 inch within 3 weeks, and it kind of came up and looked wilted, and I'm like, well, this is going to be a true test for a Apple product right here. Is this thing's going to make it or not? Well, we finally got some rain here in the last week, so I think this food plot's probably going on like 4.5, 5 weeks old now, and my stepdad said it looks phenomenal. So I want to go over and get some pictures of it and get it online for you guys to give a very honest review of like what a food plot would look like from Vapple, in the northern central Ohio. So
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about their attractant products and their scents and all that kind of stuff quite a bit, but food plots is one thing that I don't feel like we talk about enough. And I know only kind of have to have the right setup to be able to do something like that. But yeah, that'd be awesome to see one of those come into life and what it can produce for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think any food plot can really compete with the natural crops that, we have around here, our crops and soybeans. I mean, or the corn and soybeans. A soybean field here is a big attractant for whitetails, and it's hard to pull them away from that until they're gone, So this apple plot, I believe late season, and once the crops are harvested here, it's going to get pounded. So hopefully I can get some documentation of that. We got some pretty good box blinds set up over this food plot, and hopefully get some good video, some good footage, and maybe some pretty good sized bucks out there. That would be a great deal there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. As if you don't already have big bucks.
Yeah, I seem to get lucky every year. I mean, I'm a firm believer that honestly every big tract of land around here and where we live, there's at least one good buck on everybody's property, So I was just fortunate enough to have one on this little 12-acre lease that we got.
Yeah, it's the little properties that are kind of, they can be sleepers. I mean, like you said, it seems if you look in the right places, everybody can find a big buck. But man, those small little properties, they pack some giants from time to time. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would take 5-acre parcels over, a big 50-acre parcel. I love hunting these little tracts. It's amazing to find these monster bucks laying close to people's houses and like right literally in their backyard. Like where I have the camera with the 2 other big bucks that I have like 5 years history with, I can honestly hear the lady like calling in her pets and like hear her morning conversations on the phone. They're that close to where we get, where I get these pictures, and you wouldn't think you would never think that, and I think guys are starting to find out like these big bucks lay, I mean, the car is going by, like you can hear it in my videos, a lot of them, I'll find these buck beds and these monster scrapes and like huge rubs, and it's literally like right next to a road, a busy road or somebody's pretty much backyard.
Yeah.
Same thing with this small 12-acre lease that I got. I can hear the lady when she's doing like her garden work, and these bucks are like laying right there. It's wild. You think they'll be out in the middle of these big tracks, these big block of woods, and they might be, but it seems like they're more consistent with. They're more comfortable if they know the person's not going to harm them. Like they just want to. They know they're not going to get disturbed, basically. And I think, I don't know. It just blows me away thinking about it. You never would have thought that before. You always push to get back in deep and get away from people. And I don't know if the deer are changing here, picking up what's going on. I don't know.
It's always an interesting dynamic and going from place to place and whitetail behavior. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, hunting pressure has a lot to do with it. I get that.
So you hunt a lot of private land. It sounds like. How hard is it to find a lease, if you will, up there in your neck of the woods in Ohio?
So we're slowly losing properties, and I think this is happening to a lot of people. You very seldom talk to a hunter that's like, I just picked up all these leases, or I got all this new ground, and it's pretty sad. When I was growing up, farmers were like probably around that 500 acre to 1,500 acre. That was kind of a normal size farm. Maybe there were some smaller mom and pop farms, that guys would be like, yeah, if you want to hunt it, go ahead. But the problem is now which I guess is obviously benefits the farmers. They're buying up all the smaller ones, So some of these farmers up here, are average probably 2,500 to 5,000 acres. I mean, some of them are bigger, 10,000. And it's, you go doing the door knocking thing like everybody used to, and you get there and they're like, oh, we already got so-and-so out there hunting. And, you're kind of like, great. So you got one guy hunting 5,000 acres, and and this is why our deer population is so high here, I believe, which, like an average Joe like me, you can't go pay 11,000 for an acre for yourself, and get a nice get a nice piece of hunting ground. It doesn't work like that. So I mean, it's cool. The farmers are getting bigger and making more money. Obviously, that's great for them and their family. But for a guy that's just trying to find a piece of ground to hunt, it's getting tough, and guys are losing it. We between me and my stepdad, we probably have half the properties we used to hunt. And as far as public land, I mean, I don't know all Ohio's public land. Wayne National Forest is probably one of the biggest ones in the state. And I've never hunted it, don't know anything about it, don't even want to get into it. But I just hear it gets pounded, and a lot of pressure down there. So, yeah, I mean, I wish it was like it used to be where we could get more ground, and I think, with whitetail hunting getting super popular and everybody wants to kill the monsters, it's just like the small game thing. It's going away. We have like a horrible raccoon problem here. It's crazy that sounds, but like you can dump out a bag of corn in front of your trail camera and like it's nothing to have 15 coons on it at one time. And that's from people got these properties locked up, or farmers aren't letting people hunt small game because they're worried about killing these monster bucks. And it's crazy how things have changed, from when I was a kid to now. So I that's why I do everything I can to hold on to my leases. Don't be taking a bunch of buddies in there. If you got permission to hunt it for you, keep it that way. Don't be trashing up the properties and stuff like that, and try to hold on to it.
Yeah, makes you work harder for sure.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, Kurt, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast with us. We are kind of getting toward that magic number for our time that we try to shoot for. But before we let you go, I'm going to hit you with what we call our rapid fire questions. Just a few questions about hunting and some stuff to maybe get you pumped up about and look forward to. So,
all right.
First off, what is your favorite hunting memory that comes to mind, and tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. Oh, good hunting memory. Probably the first time I killed a bull elk, I guess. That's kind of a majestic creature there. You work hard out there. And, I was in Colorado, obviously, when that happened, but to push yourself. And I think I had a real dry archery season that year. I can't remember exactly how that went down, but ended up harvesting a 5x5 bull with one of my good friends at the time of day that you would not expect it. It was like super hot in the middle of the day, kind of, your morale's low. You're waiting for the evening to come, and then this bull stepped out and put the smack down on him. So it was, I'll never forget that. I just remember we were like in t-shirts, just sweated up, dehydrated, tired, and I think that's what makes the hunt so much more fun, is the challenge of it being like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it really does, when it does happen, it just adds that much more excitement to it. So
it's crazy how your mentality can go from defeat to complete, and just a 180 all the way the opposite just in a few seconds.
Yeah, and I love it like that. It sucks at the time, but then when you do harvest, it's like, oh, that's why I did it. That's why we do it, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. What is a bucket list hunt that you have not gotten to do yet that you would like to do at some point in your life?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I've already killed some black bear, but I would like to maybe change the terrain up a little bit. I've done the out west thing, and then obviously hunt Midwest. So I would love to go north. I would love to go see the north and pursue one of the bear species, whether it be grizzly brown or black. So yeah, that would be definitely a bucket list for me. So I'm gonna get it done eventually, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, third and final question. We've been talking a lot about deer hunting up in your neck of the woods and everything this podcast. You're giving us a lot of little tips and tricks throughout the episode, it feels like, but what's one big piece of advice you think you got for whitetail hunters about to kick off their season this fall?
Don't burn your spots out and play the wind. Do not go in on a marginal wind unless you can get it done, I guess. I hear that all the time. Guys are like, I don't play the wind anymore, which I guess sometimes you can if you're maybe doing the ozonics thing. I don't have a lot of background with the ozonics, so I can't really say, but I preach, don't burn your spots out. If it's not the right day, don't do it. You're better off setting it out. I know everybody wants to be in the woods, you know, and I have spots that I can go mess up and it doesn't really hurt anything because there was nothing on that farm anyways. I mean, I still like to get out and just go and say I did it too, you know, but if you're messing with a big caliber deer, you know, just stay out of there till it's time. And I think your odds, you know, of killing them are a lot higher. I guess quality over quantity is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff right there. I couldn't agree more. I'll raise my hand. I'm guilty of doing that before. You live and learn.
Yeah, it hurts at the end of the year when you got that tag in your pocket still, and you wish you would have stayed out of there then. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Kurt, I really appreciate, like I said, you coming on the podcast with me this morning, taking some time out of your day to record. It's been awesome talking with you, and I hope that our listeners enjoyed it and got something from it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. Hopefully, the next one we talk about a big buck I killed this year.
Yeah, so. And hopefully that's a big buck that our followers have already seen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just hope everybody has a good season and we get some good content and everybody has a good, safe season.
Same here, man. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good year. So, well, guys, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it as always. If you have not already, go check out Fall Obsession on all of our social media pages. That's Facebook, Instagram. We are on Twitter as well. Our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of awesome videos and some mini series going on right now. New episodes and videos every single week. If you haven't already, also hit that follow and subscribe button on this podcast on your favorite podcast app. We'd love to keep bringing you quality content in the form of podcast episodes. FallObsession.com, that is the hub. That's where you guys can go to find all of our content, all of our reviews, articles. Our videos are on there as well. Some episodes from our flagship series, our show, Fall Obsessed Outdoors. Like we mentioned earlier, Kurt's videos are on there as well. So go check that out. And there's also a page, if you go to fallobsession.com/podcast, there is a page where guys can fill out a form and send us a topic suggestion. Tell us what you think of our podcast. If you got any questions, you can ask them there and maybe even suggest a topic. And we'll cover it in a future episode. So thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. Kurt, thank you once again, buddy. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
All right, and we will see you guys again next week for another Fall Obsession podcast episode. We'll catch you later.